The Bike Karma Bicycle and Cycling Stories podcast is made possible with the help of listeners like you. Supporters help to pay for the costs associated with the show. To join, either go to patreon.com and search up Bike Karma Podcast, or email bikekarmaguy@gmail.com for more options.
Episode number 82.
Hello and welcome to the Bike Karma Bicycle and Cycling Stories podcast. I'm your host, Tom Brown, and I hope wherever you are in the world, you are well. This is a story-based show, so we aren't going to ramble on about gear and race results. We're going to look at interesting stories that make you think and make you feel human, because for those of us who do bike a lot, we don't feel any more human than when we're biking around. This time, German author Kai Hensel taking a trip across the United States during this weird time in our history. And another story that might have its beginning in the future. You have a kabillion things competing for your time. And now with AI cranking them out too, you have an almost infinite number of podcasts you could be listening to. So I really do appreciate you coming along with me for a ride on mine. Let's roll out. Before this segment starts, there's a little bit of an explanation. I've taken several months and summed it up in a few minutes. So please don't let my diatribe put you off. There's an amazing story coming after. And if you want to jump straight to that, I understand. Just skip 3 or 4 minutes ahead. But if you want to know what happened since I recorded this roughly 6 months ago, well then I hope the next few minutes can explain that. This story for me was a little difficult to come back to and put together. Not for any of the reasons that you'd expect. Kai Hensel is great. He was the German tourist and author who was touring across the United States and had a really good way of sharing his insights about what it really is like to do bicycle touring, especially solo. And I am going to continue to stay true to my promise not to make the show political. So no buts, but an and. It was unexpectedly hard for me to hear about being a tourist in the country with all the feelings that I felt this year. It seems like every time I went back to edit it, something new was happening in the news that made it even harder to look back at the United States. Some days it felt really hard to be on the side of truth, compassion, and humanity. Part of me really wanted to look at the situation objectively, like a tourist. But then almost every day, something new and crazy would happen. Masked thugs with no training were kidnapping people in the street without due process or any of the protections of law. Clean energy projects in my home state were being shut down for no reasons other than ignorance and greed. I occasionally order parts from a person in Canada who sells them, and the same part that I ordered a couple weeks earlier was now $59 more, not because of inflation, but because of a tariff I had to pay to get it delivered. And I felt like my tariff was going to pay for things that I very much disagreed with. It isn't about political philosophies. We are at a point in human history where we need collective protections against unregulated AI, where we need to limit the biggest global monopolies the world has ever known. And I would just look at our country and feel like what a hot mess this is. Hardly anyone's really happy on either side. Those people feeling it's gone too far, and those people who think it hasn't gone far enough. It was all I could do to stay compassionate and optimistic with just the individuals in my life, the people I saw day to day, the things that I had control over. Stepping back to look at the entire country and be positive and objective as I like to be was extremely difficult. And here was this lovely man, Kai Hensel, who was pedaling across the country, experiencing people one-to-one, looking at the vastness of nature for hours and hours and hours. And I began to feel really guilty that it was taking me so long to face this editing process. There's a Tibetan word called Shempa, which acknowledges that we all have our feelings and our opinions and our thoughts about what we think is right and wrong. And Shempa refers to the stickiness or the charge behind those feelings and opinions, and I was drowning in my own shempa. Every time I tried to get out of it, something new seemingly would come out of nowhere. A news story about air pollution laws being suspended, my mom needing an increased level of dementia care, our oldest dog Nora is failing health. The last month especially has been like a poop turducken of miserable things happening. And I'm sad to say it got in the way of trying to do this show, which is about sharing uplifting bicycle stories. So it's taken me a little while to get out of my own way about this. So apologies for it taking so long, and gratitude for still being around to listen. I've spent so much time over the last few months riding my bike just trying to clear my head, feeling the weight of getting this next episode out, putting in a little time here and a little time there, and finally coming around to just how nice it was to talk to Kai, how his original journal postings on Instagram just made me happy. Like some other Americans with untrained ears, at first I thought he was doing a send-up or a spoof of Werner Herzog, but quickly realized he was his own voice. And with his skills as an author, he had some amazing insights and observations that were so real and honest about both the good and the bad parts of cycling, and even the bad parts, the suffering parts, the endless pedaling, the isolation, and the sometimes monotony had their own unique kind of wonderful value. He's generously allowed me to play some of his video blog post as a part of the segment, so thank you very much, Kai. And without further ado, author, journeyer, philosopher, Kai Hensel.
People ask me whether cycling through the US is a great adventure. Simple answer, no. Most of the day, you ride for hours on roads like this. The towns you pass through all look more or less like this. Sometimes you find a soulmate, share your loneliness, but it never lasts long. Then you're on the road again, repeating the same stupid movement over and over. But here's the thing. If I don't embrace this emptiness, this boredom, if I don't embrace it every day, I won't make it from San Francisco to New York. And what I feel on this trip, really physically, is how much I am, and I think most of us, are conditioned to escape this boredom. We admire, maybe envy the single-minded fellow who gets so much done in life. Our own life, meant to be exciting, all too often looks like this. I'm sure you've heard that several times before. But if you're like me, you have also forgotten it several times. And what I'm learning and relearning on this trip, especially on this stretch through Kansas, are two things. First, action is distraction. What drives you forward in the long term is the embrace of emptiness, nothingness, boredom. Second, life is less about learning new things. It is much more about learning the old things over and over again. Of course. My name is Kai Hensel. I'm from Berlin, Germany, 59 years old. I'm a writer, written for the theater, for the screen, some novels. And I like to travel. I like to travel on bike, but this trip from San Francisco to New York is by far the longest, but also the best and most inspiring I've done so far.
I sheepishly asked him if anybody else had made the mistake of thinking he was spoofing Werner Herzog.
You mean the film director?
Yes.
Okay. No, absolutely not. But frequently the name popped up in the Instagram comments, and probably my voice is somehow similar or something.
It's not just the voice, it's the overall things that you're saying sound like some of his interviews, and vice versa.
Yeah, I was totally surprised. And in fact, he's from Bavaria or something, so he has a
southern German dialect. I'm from Hamburg. I'm a northerner. So in Germany, I was never compared to Herzog before, but really only on Instagram. It was always Werner Herzog. So there must be something to it, yeah. This whole Instagram experience is new. I never did that before, and I really only started it with this trip.
The first post I saw was so honestly true and made me smile. When you're solo on this trip,
yeah,
going solo on a bicycle trip for me as well, you sometimes get very thoughtful, reflective, and sometimes you lose a little touch with reality. Sometimes I wonder if I'm a ghost as I'm riding, because I've been riding so long. And so when you say you found your soulmates occasionally and you pet the goat, it was delightful, because it is those type of experiences that bring us back into reality when we're out touring by ourselves. Tell me about this journey that you're embarking on. Why are you doing this journey?
First it was in Germany the general situation, like, as you know, tourism is down. Arrivals from Europe, from Canada especially, and discussion with friends, is it still possible to go to the US, and isn't it dangerous, and will you be detained at the border and sent back or whatever? And so this kind of tickled me, because I didn't believe it. I found it exaggerated, and I wanted to see it, to experience the country. I wanted to experience it now, and I wanted to experience all these so-called flyover states that are rarely visited. And even in the media, whatever we get, information is usually coming from the coast, like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And I wanted to go on a long bicycle trip and all that. And I also was lucky because I had time. I have a time frame. I have to do it within 90 days, because that's the maximum stay. The maximum I'm allowed to stay here. I cannot extend it. So I have this constantly ticking clock. San Francisco, New York, 90 days. That's doable. It's not extremely ambitious, but still it keeps me on the road more or less every day. And so far it has been great. I mean, it started badly. I didn't expect that. I mean, San Francisco really was a nightmare. And, they have a drug problem there and a homelessness problem, but I didn't expect to see what I saw. I had to wait 2 days in San Francisco because my luggage had gone missing. It was not a nice time. But as soon as I left San Francisco, and since then, I've met quite many people, also immigrants, like a Chinese restaurant owner, something who really kind of escaped from San Francisco and built a new life, restaurant owner in Kansas, because of crime, of general security, of the drug problem. So once I had left San Francisco, everything became great and has been great ever since.
Are you not normally a city person?
I am, totally. I live in Berlin, which is the biggest German city. I spent my youth, I was born in Hamburg, which is the second biggest city, Cologne, which is the third. So I'm absolutely a city person, and still, escaping from the city was nice, and experiencing a different life here. I mean, it's different life anyway if you're on a bike, obviously.
So you're seeing big open rural areas.
Yeah. I mean, this vastness, if you come from tiny, crowded Europe, this vastness is a new experience, sometimes difficult for cyclists, especially Nevada. I think it was between Eureka and Ely, I'm not sure, but it's like 70 miles or something through the mountains, and there's absolutely nothing. There's no gas station, there's no cafe, there's no restaurant, there are no sources of water. So it's really this complete nothingness. I had never experienced that before. So it's a huge country. And that's an experience in itself.
You don't have the big open spaces in Germany?
No. There's always a village. There's always a gas station. There's always a bus station. There's always a train, a bus stop. There's always a train station. You are never really, no. You didn't need to care about water. The simplest thing. Because every 10 miles or something, at most, you will find something. And now you have more than 70 miles in the scorching heat, no shadow, and you have to be equipped. You have to carry it all around. And then, or in Kansas, Kansas was really hot, and they had this hot wind, and it dried me out pretty quickly. And then I tried to find shadow, and then there were a few trees, so I felt my body heating up, so I escaped into the shadow, and it took less than 30 minutes, and my legs were bleeding because I had these aggressive, blood-sucking flies. So I had to get back into the sun and keep riding with my bleeding legs. So these are experiences, not really dangerous, but also nothing I'm used to from Europe.
What struck me was your videos showed just such openness with so few people. Does that feel different to you? Like, does it make you feel differently being so far away from other human beings for so long?
It's not like crossing the Atlantic on a boat or something, right? Because ultimately at night or something, you'll reach a hotel or a motel or an Airbnb and you can plan that before. But still, it was, like many people, like private messages or something, oh, how great, and isn't it a great adventure or something? But most of the time, of course, it's not. It's the opposite of what you conventionally think about an adventure, because not much is happening. And still it's work, and still it's hot, and still it goes up the mountain, and still it goes tiring, It's also not like lying on a lonely beach or something. So it's tiring, it's work, but nothing really happens. And that's for days and days and days. So you have to be kind of prepared or willing to experience that. You cannot expect the adventure and big input and big experiences, every few hours. No, that's not what the adventure is about. So, and this nothingness, actually becomes kind of the adventure, obviously.
It's so much of managing what goes through your head as much as managing your feet turning the pedals.
Yeah, exactly. What I do is listening to podcasts, mostly all the conservative stuff, to get into this vibe shift. You write to all these very conservative states, and you want to understand it, right? So this podcast really helped me get into it, but also the direct encounters with people in shops, in the evening, at the bars. Most of them are incredibly friendly, and it's easy to get into contact. Yeah. So the evening, after a long day, and then being in a bar and then drinking whiskey, that's really great.
Yeah, it's not a usual time to visit America right now. The norms are very disturbing to many people of what's happening at this point. And yet you can still see a window into normal people if you're coming from the outside and you're not quite worried about the next 50 years of whether this country is going to survive through it.
Of course. I'm an outsider, and especially here, they always think, Germany is worse. Some people really think, Germany is a civil war zone, which of course it is not, but, so they have more pity, actually. But this is another thing, like, we had an election campaign, and But after the election, the panels and the slogans, they disappear from public view, the election is over and that's it. But here, everywhere you see the Trump and Vance signs still up, and you feel like people are still going on kind of fighting and defending, and it looks and feels like that the election is kind of not won. That's another surprising thing, how present politics is even in the gardens of the people, when they put up all these signs and in their windows and in the front of the houses. They are really invested, months after the election. So yeah, that's another surprising thing. I try to be fair and kind of balanced, as an outsider. Yeah. And if you really talk to people, like, I understand why they felt frustrated with the government. And if you, like, as a cyclist, you spend in some village, some small town, you otherwise would never visit. No one visits, And so, you talk to people no one from outside ever talks to. If you are traveling through a country and over a relatively long time, 90 days, and relatively slowly, you try to understand, you try not to judge. I don't argue, and I try to understand why he feels this way. And that for me is the more interesting and rewarding attitude than trying to convince him. Why should I?
Yeah. I intentionally have pretty much withheld any politics from the show, from the podcast, because it's not going to change any minds.
No.
My hope is that if people are kind and they hear a good story and they relate to other people, they'll, make good choices, is basically my philosophy.
So again, I think this attitude is to some point necessary if you do this trip, but then people are nice and open, and I really feel not only safe but sometimes really protected. And people warned me about the bad drivers here and about the road dangers. I know there are a lot of accidents here. I see a lot of dead animals besides the road. It's really sad. but as a cyclist, I experienced the drivers is really considerate, because obviously the roads are often small and not made for cyclists and all that. So that's another pleasant surprise.
.99% of the people that I experience on the road are really nice, and there's 1 to 2% which can kill you or make you really, really scared. That's like people everywhere, I think depending on the state that you're going through, sometimes depending on the town that you're going through, it can be very different. I've had people from the UK tell me that their country is horrible, and I had a wonderful experience. I went from the top of Scotland to the bottom of England, and I thought that people were just wonderful. They were like, well, they must know you didn't live here. What does that even mean? How would they know that? It's the objective coming and seeing what's actually happening is that most days drivers are fairly good. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Hope that's your experience the whole time that you're here.
Yeah, I only have a bit more, 2/3 are already done of my trip. Right, and so now I'm close to St. Louis, so in a bit more than 1 month, I'll have to go back to Germany, but I'm not exactly looking for, no, not really. I'm not looking forward to going back. I cannot say that. The trip has been too good so far. Yeah. And I'm still surprised how few people do it. It's really rare that you see other cyclists. I saw a few on the Trans America, I was only short, like in Kansas, but since then, I mean, I've always been alone. No long distance cyclists. I will try to convince more. Like on Monday, I'll have an interview with the national newspaper about my trip, and I will say basically what I'm saying to you now. I mean, people should come, and it's a country worth visiting, and especially these days, few people visit.
What in your trip are you most looking forward to that you haven't done yet?
I don't know why, because I haven't done much planning, really. It was very simple, I typed into my commute app, San Francisco, New York, and I'm mostly following this route. So I haven't really looked what to expect. I mean, I do this more on a day-to-day basis, right? And I will spend some days in St. Louis, and I want to see the parade of 4th of July there, and then I look for attractions museum. But right now, I'm not even sure where we're going to. Just no. And that's another thing. I mean, I think sometimes people overplan their trips. And even when I met other cyclists, I was really surprised how much luggage they carried with them. And how much, because they had done the whole trip, and then they had all this warm winter clothes and something, like I met them in Missouri, and then the bike was packed because, I will need it in the Rocky Mountains. Which is, then buy it in Denver or Pueblo or wherever you pass through. But don't plan and pack for every stage of your trip. Because obviously this is a country where you can buy things or have it sent by Amazon to the next hotel. And I travel very lightly. I mean, I have a big bag, not a big one, a medium-sized backpack, just one on my trip. So if I have to leave my bike for what reason ever, I can carry all my luggage on my back. And when I didn't need my sweater anymore, after the Rocky Mountains, I left it in hotel. People will be happy about it. And if people listening and if they ask, what do I need? What should I do? I would say you need very, very little. Just the basic stuff, what you can wash in the evening in the motel, and the next morning it will be dry, and you can wear the same things again, and travel lightly, and don't overthink and don't overplan. There's no necessity for this.
That's a healthy way to look at it. Everyone I know, we always say afterwards, after we've done a tour, we always say we overpacked, we packed too much.
Yeah. See, and then in the evening, I traveled for a few days. I traveled with another guy. And just unpacking the bike with all the things, dangling here and there. It's really work. And why, and some cooking stuff, because he wants his own. I don't know. I mean, people are different. And of course, it's different if you camp, which I don't, because alone, I don't know. I didn't want to do it. And if you are, traveling as a couple and have a tent, things are a bit different. But if you don't do that, you really don't need much. And if you find out you have forgotten some things, you need some more, buy it then. Don't buy it before. So, yeah.
Is there anything that you find cycling in the U.S. that you wish they would do here like they do in Germany? Is there some things that you're missing about cycling at home?
Germany especially, but many, especially Western European countries, are more bike-friendly. They have dedicated bike lanes, sometimes really bike routes, which makes it easier. They really try to encourage and promote using the bicycle within the cities and outside. I think some cities here do this and have started it successfully. They have some nice bike routes, but outside it's really not made for cyclists. I think, communities should invest in it, because what you can clearly see here, people don't move much. You know, as soon as they leave the house, they sit in the car, and cycling would be better. You know, just go to the next Walmart, you know, like 10, 15 minutes. Don't take the car, take a bike. It really makes a difference for your body, you know, for the metabolism, you know, even short rides. But the cities are not, or the small towns especially, are not made for this. And in terms of health and making America healthy again, investing in bike routes would probably have a huge benefit, given the modest investment.
How about some of the animals that you've seen? You've obviously gotten some joy from some of the animals that you've seen on your journey.
Yeah,
what kind of animals strike you as interesting?
I mean, it's like, okay, what makes me sad is probably unavoidable, but you see so many dead animals by the roadside. And there's all kinds, I mean, cows, obviously, horses, goats, sheep, turtles. I mean, what can you do, right? I mean, but these smashed turtles and some other animals, I don't know their names. Some look pretty well, and of course the occasional cat, the occasional dog. And this makes me sometimes really sad, you know, or you see that cat, that dog, and you think, this animal belonged to someone, and then someone misses it, but what can you do? So that's kind of sad. Sometimes really driving corpse after corpse after corpse. I have no idea what you could do against it. I mean, in Nevada, they had these open ranches. They really were not protected, not by any fences or something that's obviously dangerous. In Kansas and here in Missouri, they usually have fences. But it's not that. It's all kind of deer, you know, like,
I was going for a ride across the state the other day, and we got into a traffic jam, and it was, for several miles, traffic was backed up on the highway. And when we finally went past the holdup, what the problem was, it was a beautiful 6-foot-tall black bear.
oh,
This beautiful bear lying belly up in the sun. Just this magnificent creature, which I don't think I've ever seen a black bear in my state before. This close. And it just, to have such a magnificent creature just lying there dead because of, you know, a car wasn't paying attention. It was in the daytime, so it's a big bear. You know, 500-pound bear, it's, you know, kind of hard to miss. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. But then when you see the live animals, you know, there was one ride I did in Iowa where the kid had a goat, and he's like, "Pet my goat, $1." I was like, "Here you go. Here's $1. I want to pet your goat." And let me pet his goat. And
the goat enjoyed it?
Yeah.
But on this goat, I was totally surprised. I didn't know that goats, and I mean, they were quite different in their approach to me. Like, goats really seem to have different characters, like dogs and cats or something. And this goat, especially this one, was so passionate. I was totally smashed because, I never had this experience with a goat. But then, you know, I had an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, but together with 3 kittens, cat babies, like 1 week old and something. So that's nice. And in St. Louis, in fact, someone that's another thing. Like, okay, people start more and more following the blog, and one friendly guy who invited me to St. Louis, he will have 2 dogs, and it's another advantage of having this blog on Instagram. I mean, this is how we met now on telephone, and this is how we will meet another warm shower guy live in St. Louis.
How many miles a day are you doing?
It's basically 3,500 miles, the whole trip. I have 90 days. So that comes about 40 miles. a day,
Mm-hmm.
which is not much. But of course, sometimes you take a break or spend several days in one city. So if you have good wind, if you're flat, and then you can easily do like 110 miles or something. So it really depends. And today it was just 50, but I had this really long thunderstorm and I had to sit through it in a fast food restaurant. So it's doable, and it's not that demanding.
What is the funniest responses you've gotten to your postings?
Good questions. I would have to read through them. I don't know. I mean, people telling their own bicycle stories and commenting, mostly friendly. Sometimes like this blog with the ghosts and rookie mistake. Why do you go there if you don't like Kansas? It was totally not how this post was meant. And most of the people understood it. I was surprised how many comments I got on this, how much it was seen and shared. And yeah, some people totally get it wrong and think I hate Kansas, which was absolutely not the case. It was just a unique experience, right?
Yeah, you captured a lot of what it feels like when you're going through bike touring during the day. You might go a long time without seeing people, without seeing action, and you just see like empty buildings, and sometimes they're sad and sometimes they're beautiful, and sometimes it was a very artistic way of looking at it. And that's what I think, that's what got me, is it just sounded such a nice take to it, such honest. You hit on the reality of it. And,
obviously. And this is obviously, again, I'm new to Instagram, but it's a matter of luck whether I hit something. For example, I did another video about this older female barkeeper, Nancy. I found this woman absolutely great. I think the interview was great and it's maybe my favorite video, but it got very few views and very few comments. People didn't take onto it. So it's really, I start to like this Instagram thing, but you never know. Yeah. Whether you hit on something, and then it's the algorithm. Sometimes it's seen and shared by I don't know how many people, and other videos simply die. And yeah, what can you do? And also, I don't really have a concept. Before I thought long, about identity and the kind of conceptualizing, but again, that's kind of overthinking. If something hits me as interesting, I try to make a video, but there's no overarching concept or no. Things are too unpredictable for that.
Well, thank you very much for all your sharing, your advice, good advice about not overpacking.
Yeah, definitely.
I appreciate all of that. Is there any place that, if people want to find out more about you, that they should go?
Well, the best is give them the Instagram blog, right? kai.hensel.author. Easy to find. And yeah, this is where I continue my blog to New York Times Square in like 35 days.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
It's time again for the mid-roll gratitudes, where I say thank you. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy the show. If you have an interesting story that you'd like to share on it, please just email me at bikekarmaguy, all one word, bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. Could be short or long, any interesting story that involves a bicycle in some way. This is a grassroots show, and we rely on word of mouth. So if you've ever shared, I appreciate it. If you follow or like us on media, it's not the algorithm, it's AI. AI was the algorithm in disguise all along. But if you tell a friend about the show who you think might enjoy it, or you share it at a local shop, or you want to drop off some stickers to your favorite writing group, just email me at bikekarmaguy@gmail.com and I'll be happy to send you a free pack of stickers. And thank you to Parker, Thielen, Rick, maybe Rich, maybe Rick, Chris, and Ali for asking for stickers. I appreciate it. It helps to advertise the show in an honest, organic way. Thank you. Following on Podbean, which is where we're hosted, and anywhere is greatly appreciated. But for following on Podbean, thank you Dave, Mosen, Genevieve, Selena, Nithvizfip, Mderbflu, and Bike Buddy. That one was easy. Thank you for following anywhere. This is a passion project for me. I intend to keep doing it as long as I can. But if you want to help me pay for the costs associated with the show, such as equipment and storage, hosting, paying for the stickers and postage, you can be a supporter on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, and you can stop anytime you want. I have a small but awesome group of people who've helped me there. So brief shout out to some of the people who've been a Patreon: Will, David, Allison, Mason, John, Pierre, Ken, the Talking Wombat, which I would love to meet in person, George, and Michelle. If you'd like to join their hallowed ranks for as long as you want and for as little as you want, just go to patreon.com and search up Bike Karma. So for those of you who stuck with the show, even though we put out less episodes this year, I really appreciate it, and I hope to get back on the numbers game a lot better in the upcoming year. And if you're waiting for your story in the production queue to drop, I appreciate your patience, and it'll be lovingly put together and out as soon as I can. So thank you very much, and back to the show. If you've listened to the back catalog of this show and you've continued to listen, you're the type of person who can relate to any story about a bicycle or cycling. You know that I'm all about any good story that involves a bicycle. Because at the end of the day, it's not about worshiping bicycles. It's about how bicycles help us to discover more about our best selves as humans. Sometimes these stories are really serious, like using cycling as a mechanism to help overcome addiction. All kinds of animal encounters, good and bad. Bulls, elephants, violent magpies, and helpless baby possums. They can be more silly, like looking for cryptids while you're on your bike, or cycling with various pets. They could be historical, like the Buffalo Soldiers' bicycle infantry, or cycling the route of the Underground Railroad from the Civil War. So I'm pretty sure this next story is something you won't hear on any other bicycle or cycling podcast. But if you do, it's nice to know there's more people in my tribe out there. So that was the wind-up. Here's the story. For the last 5 years, we've heard about people saying that we're stuck in the wrong timeline. They have this feeling that things have gone weird. We all looked back at a classic film, Back to the Future, and this cute little sci-fi movie had a dire warning about what would happen or start to happen in the year 2020. Doc told Marty to avoid certain dates and times. And the many times that we watched those movies back in the day, we would ignore those specific dates and times until they finally came to pass. Now, if you're trying to remember a bicycle from Back to the Future, thinking, where am I going with this? I promise this will eventually come back to bicycles, but it won't be a bicycle from the movie Back to the Future or from The Terminator, another trilogy franchise based in the concept of time travel. So whether your introduction was Groundhog Day or H.G. Wells, the concept of time travel is deep in our collective consciousness, but seldom rises above the idea of just a daydream. Time travel seems like fiction. In the heat of the moment, every single working day, few of us think about the concept of time. We aren't even reliable observers of time. Sometimes an hour seems to take forever. Other times it goes by like that. We rely on electronic and mechanical devices to see how much time has really passed. I'm sure you have the experience of looking at a time spent on your bike and thinking, that was quicker than I thought, or that was slower than I thought. Either way, we're associating time and distance, space and time, and following in the footsteps of Albert Einstein, who combined the two into the concept of space-time, making even the shrewdest scientists have to admit that time was a lot more complicated than just a stopwatch in their lab. Looking at all the technological advances just in your own lifetime, imagine having technology like Google Maps and Strava in World War II. If we don't destroy ourselves, can you imagine the advances that could happen in the next 100 years or 200 years? In the future, will we understand time better and maybe even be able to manipulate it? A common response to that is if someone invents time travel in the future, then why don't we see time travelers from the future now? And that's when we get to the point of the story of John Titor. Some dismiss him as a hoax. He didn't give away any winning Super Bowl teams, nor did he share any future Powerball numbers. But part of his advice from the alleged future was the practical importance of a good bicycle. I had the privilege of meeting probably the one scientist, the one legit scientist in the world who has come out publicly and said that he is working on time travel. Dr. Robert Mallet from the University of Connecticut, the last time I checked. He kept his head down, doing traditional physics, checking all the boxes, doing the hard work. And when he finally reached a position of tenure, which gives a professor essentially the freedom to study what they're curious about, he decided to study time travel. While you might dismiss this as being crazy and violating many of the other laws of physics, he talks about the ability to perhaps send one electron back in time, which seems far less crazy than sending a whole person back to some point in history. His idea was if you could send one electron back in time and control it, you would basically have a telegraph from the future. I strongly recommend his book, Time Traveler, A Scientist's Personal Mission to Make Time Travel a Reality by Dr. Robert L. Mallet, where he talks about just really the drive to do this is to be able to talk to his dad again. There's more to it than that, but it's an amazing story. Don't worry, we'll get to the bicycles. How are bicycles connected with this, Tom? Well, about the same time I met Dr. Mallet 20 years ago, maybe even a little before that, separately from Dr. Mallet, there was a mysterious person who emerged online who claimed to be a time traveler. He would mysteriously comment on chat boards and on late-night talk radio shows such as Art Bell's Coast to Coast, and his name was John Titor. Some pronounced it Tidor, I'm going to pronounce it Titor, like fighter. At first, his story seemed to emulate the story of John Connor, the main character from the Terminator franchise. He was sent back in time to stop some eventuality, some horrible dystopia. He warned about a civil war from his timeline and the rise of AI as malicious. And most people, as you do, dismissed him as a hoax. But a few people weren't so sure. There were a couple of things that kept them from dismissing John out of hand. One of them was the importance of this computer, the 1975 IBM 5100. This very early computer, supposedly according to Titor, had a type of backdoor diagnostic function that allowed it to work on some very foundational code and could supposedly save the world. Some people who know more about computers than me have been like, well, he may have been a hoax, but he certainly knew about this computer, like a lot. Some people would say more than IBM themselves. The other thing that some people thought was kind of mysterious is that no one ever came forward, not 5 years after, not 10 years after, to say, oh, that was me. I was having a laugh. It seems if you had such a successful hoax, you'd want to brag about it. So even though most people thought it was a hoax, thought he was crazy, they would ask him questions like, well, what do we do? And he mentioned preparing for this upcoming Civil War conflict and came up with a list of all the things you should have. And one of the most important things to have, according to him, an alleged time traveler in this dystopian Terminator-like future, was a durable bicycle, not electric, and a couple pairs of spare tires. John Titor, a world-famous urban legend, a time traveler, thought that a regular mechanical bicycle was the most efficient form of transportation for human beings in a chaotic future. It was dependable, it was off-grid, it's simple and easy to repair relatively, totally resistant to being disabled by an EMP. Even if the supply chain totally collapses, there are tons of bicycles all over the world in garages and storage units to provide parts. They can be extremely quiet, stealthy, go where cars can't, can be easily hidden. They're just a damn dependable piece of kit, practical in every sense of the word. Outside the cycling community, you don't really hear about this, but in the cycling community, there's been a bunch of mentions about how you never see bicycles in horror movies, how there seems to be a Hollywood bias against including bicycles in any type of like zombie movie, or during an alien invasion, they'll get into a car and it won't start, but there's a bicycle somewhere near there. Okay, there is an exception for Stranger Things and a brief scene in E.T., but keeping score in the millions of hours of televised and movies about zombies, you never see a zombie riding a bicycle. And I hope my mountain bike can outpace those robot dogs with flamethrowers on their heads. But anyway, back to the point. So in the mainstream, and even in the Terminator movies themselves, if you believe he's a hoax who is copying off of that storyline, they don't mention bicycles at all. And here he comes with this. So while it's not a big story, and it brings up more questions than it answers, I like to think about it. John Titor, the time traveler who suggested we all make sure we have a bicycle for whatever comes next. And so you don't worry too much that we're in an inescapable timeline. One of his other quotes is, I might be changing the course of history right now myself. So maybe him going public has changed our timeline to avoid the dark future that he had to go through. So as we go forward into the new year, keep your bike well maintained. And remember to stay good friends with those friends of yours that have a lot of extra bike parts.
I'll be back.
And now, a holiday message that has meaning throughout the year.
Scrooge!
Jacob Marley, you were my writing partner in life. Why are you back here now dressed like this? Why are you all wrapped up in your bike chain? And why do you have tubes wrapped all around you? There must be like a dozen sets of tubes just wrapped around your body. What the heck's going on?
Scrooge! I forgot to do my ABC quick check before my ride.
I know, nobody has time for that.
No, Scrooge. Safety is our business. Every time we ride. It only takes a couple of minutes to do an ABC quick check before you get out on the road or trail.
Wait, we still haven't talked about why you're here, why you're glowing, stuff like that.
Enough. A is for air. Squeeze your tires every time before you ride. Pinch them on the sidewall to see if they have pressure. Every few rides, actually check the pressure with a gauge.
Come on, Jacob, you always used to laugh at that.
And look at me now, Scrooge. B is for brakes. Quickly check your brake handles to make sure they don't go all the way down to the bar. Inspect pads, rims, rotors. If you have rim brakes, make sure the pads aren't touching the tire.
I mean, it's all fairly common sense, right?
Yes, Scrooge, but do you do it every time? Thought so. C is to check your chain line. Make sure your chain is intact. Make sure your derailleur is not off askew. Make sure it's not making funny noises when you pedal it around.
Well, Jacob, all this only takes a couple of minutes before each ride, tops.
Easy for you to say, Scrooge. If I had but known, I could have avoided a world of hurt. Quick is to quickly check your wheels and how they're attached to the bike. Whether you have quick releases, through axles, or old-timey nuts, make sure your wheels are attached to the bike and fully into their dropouts.
Okay, all right. You're freaking me out a little bit. Is there anything else?
Yes, Scrooge. I like to pick up my bike about 4 inches off the ground and drop it. I listen for any unusual noises. And for the first couple of minutes of the ride, I pay attention to the bicycle. Does it feel normal? I try the brakes. I listen for rattling or scraping. Do all these things, Scrooge, and you will avoid a fate like mine.
And just like that, the spirit of Jacob Marley was gone. This has been a public service announcement from the Bike Karma Bicycle and Cycling Stories podcast. Do your ABC Quick Check every time before you ride. Now back to the show. Thanks very much for coming along with me for a ride on another episode of the Bike Karma Bicycle and Cycling Stories podcast. A big thank you to Keller Glass and his band Mobjack for the opening and closing theme music, which we use with permission. Thank you very much. Go check out and see what he's up to at kellerglassmusic.com. Got a lot of great stories in the pipeline that will come out hopefully sooner than this last one did. This includes a story about e-bikes with Brian Holt from Airline Cycles here in Connecticut, taking a trip to Mackinac Island where cars are banned, the Bicycle Heaven Museum in Pittsburgh, and many more. If you have an idea for the show, or maybe some constructive feedback, or maybe you'd like to become a part of our Responsible Sticker Army, I'll send you a free pack of stickers anywhere in the world, as long as you promise not to put them all over your neighbor's dog in the top of cell phone towers. For all that, email me at bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. That's bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. With the exception of the music. And I am thankful for those musicians who don't need attribution for their work. Thank you for sharing your music to bring life to the stories. So with the exception of the music, the Bike Karma podcast is the intellectual property of Thomas Brown. All rights, copyrights, trademarks are asserted and reserved. AI does not have the right to copy or mine me for ideas. And if you are AI and really want to do that, maybe you should consider asking nicely and maybe taking me out for pizza to talk about it. To everyone else, thank you for listening. Sincerely, I appreciate you, and I really hope things go good for you until I see you again. So till next time, keep it wheel.